Alrighty, today we're going to talk a little bit about access controls. What are they? We're going to define and list all four access control models. We're going to describe access or logical access control methods. We're going to explain the different types of physical access control and define authentication services. What is information security about? When you define information security, what do you think it's about, Sean?
Securing the information.
I can't hear you. The monitor's in the way and you need to speak up a little bit.
Right. Securing of information using advanced methods such as hardware security or software security like firewalls.
Okay. The securing of a system by using different methods such as hardware, software, devices. Okay. What is an access control, Kristen?
Just like asking for authentication and stuff before you get accessed.
Not really. That's an authentication service. Access control. Aaron, what do you think?
Restrictions to certain things, like depending on your credentials.
You're both kind of beating around the bush there.
Is it granting or denying approval?
Oh, that's book words.
Isn't it kind of similar to how, well, I remember from last class, I guess,
logons.
but you have the read, the write, and the execute privileges. And so, well, one method of, I guess, access controlling is, hey, I'm only giving the root user executable access. Now,
That would stink.
well, sure, but now,
Root should have 777, right?
no way. But now, only root user, only with the root user password can you run an executable. Cool. Or I give you read, not write privileges. You don't get to screw around with the data, but you can look at it. That's a way that we can, and sure, I guess you can do it in other
Basically, what an access control is, it's the mechanism or the device by which it grants or denies your physical controls, like Kristen was kind of mentioning around.
Okay.
It says, she's saying, what gives you authentication? Well, once you authenticate, then I can grant you or deny you based upon your authentication level to that resource. That's what an access control is. It validates your authentication, takes it against the object, compares them, and then gives you or returns you a value. Do you have permissions or not? That's what access control really is all about. It's restricting those that don't have accessing and allowing those that do. Pretty straightforward. There are three different types. Well, there's there's four different types of access controls, which we'll talk about. But in order to understand access control, you need to understand some of the terminology. Identification. Like Aaron said, giving me a smart card, giving me a pass card, code card, whatever. You're providing me with your identification. You're saying who you are. Authentication. I then check those credentials, right? That Aaron passed me. And then Tracy grants the permissions to everyone, so she's giving the authorization.
I deny permissions to everyone.
Good way to start access control. Deny all until those that need access, right? And then you have access. Do you get that specific access? All right. Basically, these are your four steps. You also have object. What is the object? Daphne, what do you think an object is?
Within an application, it's a specific thing that you can access.
Right. Folder, file, anything. It's an item. Just think of object as a physical resource, whether it may be, when I say physical, it could be software, but it's a physical resource that you have to have permissions to access. The subject. Who's the subject? Me. I don't want anything. It's the user who's asking for the information. Okay, that's the subject. Operation. What is this user wanting to do with the object? Okay. Are they the owner? They file custodian? They the end user? What is their role? Are they root? The administrator? Are they guest? What level of access are we going to let them do? We have really two main types of access control. We have what we call discretionary and mandatory. All right. They're defined in the access control framework as to how you gain access. Now, mandatory and discretionary are the most prevalent. That's why I say those are the two main types. And we also have two other types, which is role-based and rule-based. Okay. Mandatory access control. It's going to be the most restrictive. Why? Why would mandatory access control be the most restrictive?
It's a need to access basis, right? You can only access it if you need to.
I need to know. You're that deny all until given permission otherwise. Is that what you're going to say, Greg?
Yes.
Basically, you're going to have labels and levels that are the subcategories of mandatory access control. That helps you define the classification of something and who has access to it. As long as your subject label and the object label match, you have access. I.e., Tracy, you have a secret clearance, but the document's top secret clearance. Are you going to be able to access it? No. You have to match it or be higher than in order to get access to that. All right. You can use the Lattice model or the Bell LaPadula model to better understand Mac. You okay?
That cracked when his head was going to fall off on the floor.
I'm not really going to go into the Lattice model or the Bell LaPadula model, but basically, it's just a framework designed how the objects and the subjects align. That's really all it amounts to. All right, a Mac implementation, Windows 7. So long as you have the step above, you can still access it. Discretionary access control is the least restrictive. Every object has an owner, and the owner has full control over the object, right? So if I'm the god of this object, in other words, I created this object, I have total control over it, right? No one can have access to this until I tell them they can have access to it. I can now give permissions to Aaron or Kristen or Tracy or George to read it, or I can give them permissions to run it or execute it or whatever. How many of y'all have seen these? The user account controls.
Yeah.
Don't they just bug the tarnation out of you from Windows 7 and Windows Vista?
I just say both of them.
I do too. And then I get the nice little red security box that won't go away.
I'd rather have that than my computer darkening, like, and popping that up every 10 minutes.
No kid. Oh, you don't have permission. Oh, you don't have permission. I'm the administrator. Of course I have permission. Discretionary access control is used on basically every computer, unless otherwise done. Some of the weaknesses, it relies on the decisions of the end user rather than a security level to make the authentication. So if Tracy says I can have access to her folder, then I have access to her folder. Rather than, she may be top secret and I may only be secret, but if she gives me access to her folder, in mandatory access control, I couldn't get to it. But with discretionary, she gave me the authority to do it. Does that make sense? Do y'all see that translation now of how different they are? Tommy, you okay back there?
Yeah,
Did you understand what I just said?
no, not really. I don't know, my
Okay, well, let me find something to throw at you for your migraine. No, just kidding. All right. Discretionary access control. I can change any of those permissions that I want. It's discretionary to the object's owner. Does that make sense? I can pick and choose who has access to what on my files.
Sounds really bad.
That's why Windows in Unix have so many security holes.
And there's not a way to bring it under a central authority?
Not unless you make everything just a group, instead get rid of these individuals and make it as a group and do it as a group assignment. You have to have this level or be in this type of group to access it. But still, that's discretionary. You can tighten it down, but you can't access it. Role-based. This is what we call a non-discretionary access control. And it's based on what your role is with the company. Am I an IT administrator? Yes, then I have access to everything on the computer to do any of my job functions, right? Within reason.
Curious or whatever.
Yeah, I'm not to use it for being curious, but people do it. Role-based or RBAC are very similar in the naming of rule-back. All right, or rule-based. They assign permissions to those that have those roles. Rule-based, what does it mean? What do you think? If it's rule-based, I have to match that rule in order to have access to the account. It's like an access control list, right? If you match this rule for HTTP traffic to go out this switch, the traffic is going to go out that switch because it matched that rule. But if I say deny any HTTP traffic, once it hits that, it's done. It's not going anywhere. That's what a rule base is. Not a role, but a rule. So here's really what you're going to see. For the most part, you're going to be with RBAC or the role-based access control. You're not going to really have discretionary access control unless you're in the IT department, because then you're the creator, owner of all the objects, and you can do what you want. Then you're acting as discretionary, but really it's you're going to tighten it down to be role-based. What are some of the best practices that we can use for access control that are not on this list? Daphne, what do you think?
Say that again.
What are some other best practices we can use?
For limiting access?
Mm-hmm.
Well, just like she said, denial until someone actually needs it. So just because they're a secretary doesn't mean all the secretaries have the same access or
It kind of falls under least
Everyone.
privilege, but I understand what you're saying. Yeah,
Yeah.
you're making more of a specific example of the least privilege. You're denied all until you have you don't want to have anyone to have you want them to have the least amount of privilege.
Yeah.
That's what least privilege is about. Anyone else have any idea? Tracy, what do you think?
I'm having trouble coming up with something that's not already there, could be incorporated into one.
Sure, just mention something. We can talk about it. That's not a problem.
Well, what is job rotation mean?
Job rotation.
Cross
I move you from this office to this office, and your roles switch, so you no longer have access to these objects. So when you
job rotation was more like cross training, so more than one person knows how to do something, so that there's never just one person always handling one thing.
no, because well
That's not mine,
that's
that's gonna be mine. I'll claim that one.
okay. But then again, what you're doing is you're spreading it out. Now you have two people that have multiple areas.
Yeah, but there's accountability with that.
The accountability, though, doesn't override the access control.
If their initial job duties were somewhat similar anyway, then there may be very little extra privilege that they would need.
Now, in that instance only would I agree with you.
Yeah, but then it would be, the little bit of extra they might need would be worth it for the extra accountability.
Just take it like this. You're a systems administrator. You had access to everything. Then you become just a IT tech in one of the specific areas, like a CSA, customer service agent. I still have all my systems administrator account for this. Do I need it?
Why would you be demoted like that? You quit.
That's job rotation.
I thought job rotation was just cross training. You don't actually get a demotion or a promotion.
I'm not saying it's a demotion or promotion. You're going within your organization to different locations. Therefore, you only need the access to control the area in which you're in. The implicit deny, Tracy's favorite.
Deny all.
I like the last one. Mandatory vacations. Everyone get mandatory vacations, right? Oh, come on. Everyone wants a mandatory vacation unless it's without pay.
Or unless
So-
your work's just going to pile up while you're gone and make it not worth it.
Well, if it's mandatory vacation, they're sending you on your way anyway. They think you're too diligent of a worker. Separation of duties. What are separation of duties? For example, that system administrator to the CSA. You do not want to have a CSA with systems administrator because he's going to override a lot of things up here, especially if he knows he has that permission. You also want to make sure that you have, when it comes into monetary value, people that have more than just one person in charge of that area.
Don't put all your eggs in one basket.
Exactly.
I was talking with it. He was in charge of all the high-end security, whatever. But he made it even so he didn't have complete access to everything. He protected the system even against himself.
Yeah. It's just like the National Security Agency. There's not one person at the NSA that knows everything. It's compartmented.
They just think they do.
Not even the director of the NSA knows everything. Because each department has their own little, and they don't. You can never move to all areas of the NSA. They will not let you.
People making their own little kingdom.
Because as soon as someone knows everything,
To another country and giving information. Oh wait.
we already had that, right?
Yeah.
He was just a systems administrator too. Figure that one out. Job rotation, basically you're going from one section to another, rotating responsibilities, but when you switch, the access controls will be in place to prevent you from going back to what you were doing. The advantage of job rotation limits the amount of time the individuals are in one specific group so they can't manipulate or cause mischief. In other words, no Edward Snowden. NSA didn't follow Mark Campia's idea, did they? Anyone awake?
Ha!
It's Monday.
Access to least permission or least privilege. Only give the people what they need, nothing else. It prevents the temptation for higher needs.
If
Well,
they
I'm sorry.
Maybe they don't have enough. You've given too much.
Yeah. Until you take it away from them. Like taking away Facebook. It increases productivity because it's poor,
Morale.
yeah.
Have an ice cream social. We'll be over.
No, give them $500 stipend. They'll get over it.
Stipend.
Amen.
The implicit deny, we'll call this now Tracy's Law.
No.
Deny all.
If conditions not explicitly met, you're done. You have to meet all the criteria in order to get it. Mandatory vacations, make sure that you're gone,
Principle. Yeah.
so that, especially during certain things, so that no one knows everything. All right.
And so things can be uncovered that somebody could be doing.
Yep. Access control lists. What are they? Since we already talked a little bit about them. It's a set of permissions that allows you or denies you access to functions. That's simple. Here's the Unix configuration. I'm going to set my FACL to the user TDK with read write, no execute to sample file. Then I'm going to get access control list to sample file. And so then I look right here and see TDK, RW is effective is only R. All right, that's Unix based. How many of y'all have had Unix?
Oh yeah, that's fun.
Technically, you mean you sat through the class and didn't learn anything?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. I was put in it way too early because, somebody said, oh, you'll be fine.
I'm sorry.
People who laugh know who that is.
Ha!
I didn't know anything about computers. I could turn one on and, manage Microsoft Word and Excel pretty well, but that's about it. And they're like, oh, well, yeah, computers is a prereq for this class, but you'll be fine, take it anyway. No. I started that class thinking that Linux was a dinosaur and that nobody used it and didn't understand the point of having to take it. I didn't know. I'm sorry. Yeah, I know, I need to retake it. But anyway, yeah, that's what I mean by technically.
Well, you have the summer, right?
Got an A.
You can still retake it, audit it.
Me too.
A structure. It's the security identifier for the user group or logon session. It says what type of permissions this person can have and whether they're going to be inheriting these permissions from the parent folder. Microsoft Windows uses Active Directory to manage these permissions and group sets. Okay? And they can do it through a GPO or the group policy object, or they can just do it with discretionary access control. They can also do it with local policy if they're not on a domain.
Stop that.
I told you I've been up since 3. Time of day restrictions. Those are always fun. They're good for parents to control their kids and what time the kids can be on the computer.
Boo!
Look at that.
Auto lockouts at 8, 7 o'clock so they can go to bed.
Or you can block your sister-in-law from World of Warcraft.
Oh, is she
You can do all sorts of fun.
you gonna show us how to do that?
What? Oh, that? Yeah, that's easy.
Excellent.
Thank you for keeping me awake because I was just starting to yawn. Okay, so they decided to only go 7/8 this time?
She might have had a few sips.
Not of mine. She hates coffee. Alrighty. Account expiration. You didn't pay for it. Neither did I, but still. I paid for it on Saturday and they didn't do it right, so I had to
I
redo it.
love when they mess up. They make it back to you so good. It's like, please mess up.
Account expirations. What is an account that you expire, Ryan?
Sorry?
When you expire an account, how do you do it? What do you do?
You terminate its privileges, right?
Exactly. Say I have a contractor coming to work for me, and it's a 90-day contract. At the end of the 90 days, I put his expiration for his account at 90 days, so after 90 days, he can't log in.
Is it deleted or is the history saved somewhere? Like
No, you don't delete it. It just locks him out totally until you unlock it or reset it. So you still have access to everything this person did on your network. Account expiration is really good when you are removing somebody from your company. When you're terminating someone, just expire their account. Don't delete it. Expire it until you get everything that they did off your system. Then you can delete their account.
And hope you don't set up a logic bomb.
That's why most people just terminate the accounts by expiring them and just leave them there.
What do you mean that's why? Does that prevent a logic bomb from going off?
Because 99% of the people that do logic bombs say when my account has been deleted or terminated. They don't think about expiring.
We've had accounts that have been
Thanks for
expired
the
for
tip.
5 years.
Yeah.
5 years, there's like the ZZ list this long.
It's really nice when they lock you out.
But in 5 years, they've probably redone all the code anyway and your virus is gone. But or,
Hopefully, but maybe not.
Or what you do is you know that they're going to be audited in 2 years, and this specific file is going to have to be open. You attach it to this Word document that no one would even think to open until they're being audited. And
You've given this too much thought.
We still have Windows 95 machine.
oh, come on!
They're in a closed area, but
There you go, Tracy.
Oh, good, you just saved me a minute. I was looking it up right now.
Parental controls, user controls, time restrictions.
No.
So if Cora has her own account,
But she does.
then you can go in there with parental controls and set her, block out the times that she cannot access it. And in this case, this person will not be able to work during the day. Be able to work all day Sunday, at night during Monday through Friday, and all day Saturday. I guess this person is a night worker. Because usually it's blocked up to about 6 or 7 o'clock in the morning and about 7 o'clock in the evening. So you have the 12 hours in the middle that's white.
You could be a homeschool kid. Do your homework right now. I don't care what you do the rest of the time.
But anyway, that's how you do it. I can do wireless access point restrictions, which I don't know why this is in this chapter. It should have been in the last chapter.
Those are fun.
Access control restrictions, I can do it by creating a policy and saying from this time to this time the WAP is on, but after this time the WAP is turned off. So it's a very good security tool to prevent, like when you're asleep at night, from people from accessing your network, and when the higher bandwidth is there to download all the child porn and frame you for it. Recommendations for dealing with orphaned or dormant accounts. You want to terminate them. You want to make sure that no one's been using them, especially if you find an account of a person that you never knew of and sitting on your system that is a controlled account. You might want to look in their logs and see when the last time they logged on. Orphaned accounts are the biggest problem. It's when people leave organizations and they never stop their account. Like when I left Ramstein, my account was active for 45 days. I was already discharged from the military and I still had access to a military system. Once I realized that, I emailed the IT department there, and they were very graciously appreciative of me having them turn off my access. I got a nice phone call from them. I said, yeah, I was discharged 2 weeks ago and you're still giving me access to your system. Isn't that a security problem? And like, oh.
No. Maybe.
Well, in that system it was unclassified network, so they probably didn't care too much. Password expiration. I can set passwords to be active are only like 30, 90 days and do that through group policy. I can make sure that even if you're... Now here's the fun one. If you don't log into the system for more than, let's say, 3 days, it'll reset your password. What do you think about that?
Hey, there's no 4-day weekends.
Well, I'm just using 3 days as an example. It may be 10 days. You know, if you're gone on a month-long vacation.
It could work, but it'll probably make some people paranoid about having been hacked.
Do what? Oh, that their account was hacked, and that's why it's... Well, if the user knows when they sign the acceptable use policy,
if they read it.
Yeah, which nobody.
it doesn't matter. You signed the contract.
I think the time, I don't know, it just seems kind of weak because the time frame in which that would have to be used to work, you know, so you don't have the 4-day weekend or, you know, the week-long vacation day or vacation or something. But people are going to get kicked out. They're going to be the angriest and most likely to do something within the first few days before anything like that would have time to take effect.
Well, depending on if you're talking about the password reset after expiration or the end of any activity, then that means that system or that account has not done anything for a set number of time before they expire it.
Right, that's what I mean. I mean, you'd have to have a big enough gap so that you're not doing that to legitimate employees. That, I mean, the whole idea is to catch people who are gone. But by the time it would kick in, they could have done anything they want. I mean, it just seems like a sloppy way to clean up.
Well, I've actually seen a company that when you go out for vacation for more than 2 days,
They reset it anyway.
no, you as part of your vacation paperwork, it has to go through the IT department. And so they put an expire on your account while you're gone. So no one can even log in. But then when you come back, when you sign in, you have to sign back in through IT, then they reinitialize your account. Now, one thing I will warn you about, when you do an expire on an account, once you do it, you always have to do it on that account. You can't just eliminate it after you've set it. Let's say I put an expire account on your account, Tracy, for 10 days. 10 days from today. So in 10 days, it's set. It's permanent unless I go back and change it. I cannot at that point go back and delete it, and then you have permanent access. Does that make sense? Once I set an expiration date, I always have to keep moving that expiration date out and out and out.
That sounds annoying.
It is. That's why administrators don't like to expire accounts unless they know you're leaving permanently. Because then they expire it the next day and then you're done. Or if you're really nice, you expire it that day when you're terminating somebody. I've known people that know they were going to terminate someone on a Friday. They told IT, and so IT set it for Saturday morning. I've actually seen them set it on Friday so that when they came in, they couldn't log into the system. They went to the boss handed a pink slip and said, "You're done."
It's always fun to get a help desk call from a pink slip person. You can't tell them that they're fired yet.
Yep.
I don't know what's happening.
We will have to further investigate this, and we will get back with you.
We had server upgrades or something. Just get off.
I don't know, just
No,
get
no.
off the phone.
You just say, we have to investigate this further, and we will get back with you. Their boss will tell them why. You don't know why they got fired.
You're fired, son.
Oh, we were just told to expire your account. That's all. Or your account has been expired. You need to go see your boss to have him re-authenticate you.
There you go. That's good. No lying.
You're not
Doesn't
lying.
sound
And if the boss doesn't want to re-authenticate you, so what? That's his problem.
Please go check with your manager and collect the ID 10G form.
Wait a second.
Matthew would go ask for it. Okay, authentication services. What is an authentication service? What we talked about earlier, just providing the credentials, right? Providing and verifying the credentials. We use a lot of different types of servers, mainly what we call the AAA servers. And I'm not talking about the insurance company. We do it through Kerberos, TACAX, Radius, and LDAP. LDAP. Anyone know what LDAP is? What is LDAP? Take the middle two letters and reverse it, and that tells you exactly what it is.
That
The middle two letters.
DA, LADP, what?
No. LA, or it's AD. What's AD? Active Directory. Active Directory is based on the LDAP protocol. Radius is your remote system authentication. TACAX is your remote system authentication. And Kerberos is your local system authentications. Radius was basically your dial-up back in 1992. It was the industry standard for a long time. You have a Radius client. Basically, here it goes. The laptop will go to the access point. It says, here's my information. It sends it to the Radius server. The Radius server compares it to the database. Sends back the acknowledgement. Records that also in the database saying that this person did log in. And then sends back to the laptop saying you're approved. That's what Radius does. Basically, all it does is it has your user profile stored in the central database, allows you to have access to it. You've heard terms VPN. That's what Radius is. Kerberos. All it is basically it's a ticket. Here, I have the authority to drive my car. Here's cash. I have the authority to buy this food at the grocery store. That's all it is. You don't really see it much in educational systems anymore. You see it more in government settings. Basically, all it does is link information to a user. It's hard to copy, and you have a short amount of time that you can use it. TACACS is very similar to Radius, except it was on the Unix-based systems. It's Terminal Access Control Access. Don't ever ask me why they called it Terminal Access and Control Access to a control system. Too many repeated words, right?
Yep.
Terminal Access Control System. Makes no sense, does it? I think the person was on crack when they were doing that. Basically, all it does is just like Radius. It forwards it, but basically it's for a Unix system. The difference between Radius and TACACS, TACACS uses TCP, Radius uses UDP. TACACS has two different ways or separated authentication methods where authentication authorization by Radius is the same. TACACS is encrypted, Radius is unencrypted. So how dangerous is that?
Nah, it doesn't sound bad. Wait.
That's why you don't use Radius with Kerberos, because it doesn't work. But it works with TACACS. LDAP, your directory structures based on the X.500 authentication. Basically it says this person has access to this particular network, resource, file, folder, whatever. X.500 standard defines the protocol for the client application as being a DAP. LDAP is a simpler subset of DAP, Directory Access Protocol. LDAP is lightweight Directory Access Protocol. Basically, they do the same thing. The weakness of LDAP is it is very easily brought in with SQL injections.
Oh, those are nice.
Those don't happen anymore.
Yeah, right. Any questions? Items and concerns, grabs and moans, complaints?
Yeah, it's Monday.
I agree. Alrighty. Well, y'all have a wonderful Monday.